Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, Star Wars movies that are currently in the works, as well as a handful of new Star Wars lore that is about to be made canon by Disney and, of course, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, George Lucas, really bringing legends back to life. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, back in May of this year is when the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show debuted on Disney+, where we had, episode 1 debut and episode 2 in one shot. A lot of fans were, very skeptical about the beginning of the series and exactly where it was heading. And once episode 4 came around is when a lot of fans began to realize that Joby Harold and Deborah Chow just really didn't put all that much effort into this series, and there's a lot more behind the entirety of that story, which we will be diving into more today, that involves Ewan McGregor really shedding more light on the production of the Kenobi TV series and essentially admitting how much of a stressful time it really was of getting this show pretty much, to actually debut on Disney Plus and to really make it happen and to just make it even exist. So, with that being said, we already know that Kathleen Kennedy had a large role in the creative process of the Kenobi series because she held the contract of the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie trilogy, and a lot of those story elements transferred over into the Kenobi show. So that's the main reason as to why she played a role in the creative process of all of this. Now, beyond all of that, what's even all the more intriguing has exactly to do with what Ewan McGregor recently said about the Kenobi series. Now, with actor Ewan McGregor now signed on for multiple new Star Wars projects that will release in the future, he has been more talkative about his experience with the Kenobi TV series for the past number of weeks. However, in recent interviews, when McGregor was questioned about the production of the Kenobi TV series, he went on to state the following to the entire fandom. Well, as I do, that this production was very much a mess. I had to lie for 3 years, and it was just heartbreaking to me to have to do that, but developing this series was pure hell at times. Stuart and Kathleen kept on getting into creative differences that led to Stuart getting let go from the project. This is when she pursued Joby Harold to step into the series, and I eventually decided to become executive producer for the show. We all had a lot of back and forth discussions about the creative process of the show, and it was just a disaster. I kept trying to convince Kathy to use some of the excellent material that Stuart had created, and that kept on getting turned down. Between us doing some reshoots and also rushing this production to meet the deadline for a May 2022 release, it really was a very fast-paced production that was very scrambled at times, and it really wore out the entire cast and the crew. I am still proud of what I did for my role as Obi-Wan, but I am, of course, very well aware about the feedback from the fans, and maybe if we just spent more time on the series and had a bigger open mind about developing characters some ways properly, we could have had a better feedback for sure. Sometimes things just don't work in the industry, and of course, but that's why we are now trying to improve on things, and it's something that I can't really get into right now at the moment, and I'm not at liberty to say. One other part of this that I really can't get into, of course, right now involves what's next. One other part on top of that Ewan McGregor also shed light on is everything related to what the production was like. So let's just, pause here quickly before we get on to the next thing, is that the thing about Ewan McGregor is that he has been a lot more talkative about this recently because, let's face it, Ewan McGregor is the executive producer. He probably has, more authority over what he's allowed to say, because we haven't really heard much from, other actors out there like Moses Ingram. Seems like she's been pretty tight-lipped. We haven't really heard from others that were involved in the show. I mean, Hayden talked about this a little bit here and there, but Ewan McGregor really has been talking about this the most. So, it does actually match up with what we saw with the filming of the Kenobi series. They got principal photography wrapped in as little as 3 months. And when I was following the production and actually covering the production for you guys last year, a lot of things were happening with the show. They wrapped filming in 3 months. I always found that to be a little suspicious as to why it was significantly shorter than the Mandalorian Season 2 filming or the Book of Boba Fett filming as well. It just seemed a little off to me. And maybe it had something to do with it only being 6 episodes, but I highly doubt that. It most likely, yes, had to do with the fact that some of the episodes were not only very short, but a lot of the scenes in these episodes were stationary shots that did not include a lot of effort, so to speak. So, moving forward from all of that, alright, he goes on to confirm, I am still proud of what I did for my role as Obi-Wan, but I am aware of the feedback from fans, and maybe, of course, we should have poured more time and effort into that. Kathy couldn't decide on what to do with the ending of the show, which also caused some setbacks. We originally had planned to do 9 episodes to complete the series, and that eventually got shaved down to 7 episodes, eventually leading us down to 6 when she decided on how the show needed to end with myself and Qui-Gon Jinn. We had so much more planned in the scripts, and with some of the deleted scenes that could have made it but did not, which saddened many of us. All I can say is that working with Hayden again brought back great memories, and it just was a shame that we had to go through such a stressful production to finally make the project happen and exist. I think the hardest part for me was having to lie to fans that I was involved with the show for the past 3 years. At the time, Disney specifically told me not to even give a hint at all about it, that I was involved. But of course, I just had to throw in some hints, and they just did not seem to like that, haha. But seriously, it was like working for Area 51 or something. I just wasn't used to actually all the secrecy that I did not have to deal with as much with George for the prequels. It wasn't as strict back then. So, let me just stop here quick of what he had to say, alright? So basically, Ewan McGregor coming forward saying that he's not used to all the secrecy, he's not used to it all feeling like Area 51. And you know what? I agree with him on that. I mean, today's day and age is a little crazy when it comes to, productions out there. If you look at especially, the Marvel films, but the Star Wars productions are probably the most secretive projects that you can see in Hollywood. I don't know why it's treated as so secret, but it is. And of course, things get out there, and we've seen Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau try to cover Luke Skywalker and his appearance, the tracks of all of that in Mando Season 2 by labeling Luke Skywalker as Plo Koon. That worked to them to a great degree. But Ewan McGregor is not used to this. He's not used to all the secrecy. And he just did not like the fact that he had to lie about being Obi-Wan. But you know what? He did throw in some hints. If you guys go back to that Collider interview with Ewan McGregor, go ahead and look it up. He himself even teased and accidentally let out a trilogy. Alright, Stuart Beattie, the original writer, confirmed that there was a Kenobi trilogy that he was working on. And Ewan McGregor, in that Collider interview, even said, hey, maybe there's even a trilogy, and he actually laughs about it. So he technically right then and there confirmed that a trilogy at the time was in the works that eventually pretty much, got, shot down by Kathleen Kennedy, turned it into a series from 9 episodes to 7, and eventually dwindling it down to 6. So overall, guys, let me know what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.